Behind Lucille Ball's iconic red hair, behind the laughter that filled American living rooms for decades, behind the slapstick genius that made her a household name, lay a maze of intimate secrets Hollywood worked relentlessly to bury, secrets that reveal a far more complex, passionate, and conflicted woman than the world ever saw on screen, and nowhere is that complexity more visible than in the whispered accounts of her relationship with Henry Fonda, the respected gentleman who may have been the first man to truly see her. In the 1930s, long before she became the unstoppable force of comedy and business that audiences revered, Lucy was just another contract actress at RKO Studios, struggling to climb her way out of the pretty face category that trapped so many women of her era. It was there, in the shadowy corridors of the studio system, that she crossed paths with Henry Fonda, an already established leading man whose career radiated dignity, self-discipline, and quiet emotional intelligence. Although Hollywood was a place where rumors thrived, insiders from that period, including production assistants, wardrobe workers, and studio employees whose voices were silenced for decades, revealed that there was an undeniable chemistry between Lucy and Fonda, a connection that flared quickly yet intensely, but was carefully contained behind the strict studio culture that valued silence over truth. What makes this rumored affair especially intriguing is the private emotional landscape that surrounded it. Both Lucy and Fonda were married at the time, trapped in relationships marked by misunderstandings, emotional distance, and the pressures of early Hollywood careers. And yet, according to Jane Fonda's autobiography, her father had a well-documented pattern of developing deep attractions to his co-stars, a pattern that makes this particular connection not just possible, but highly plausible. One wardrobe assistant who interacted with them daily told Hollywood historian Robert Mattson something that sheds a revealing light on the dynamics between these two stars. She said Henry was the first man who made Lucy feel respected, not ogled, not objectified, not dismissed, but truly listened to, seen, valued, appreciated for her mind rather than just her beauty. In an industry where actresses were routinely treated like decorative props rather than creative contributors, that intellectual connection, that sense of equality, was, according to those closest to her, far more seductive to Lucy than anything physical. The alleged affair, insiders insist, was brief, a moment in time shaped by loneliness, admiration, and emotional hunger. Rather, in the early 1940s, while Wells was electrifying Hollywood with Citizen Kane and revolutionizing theater, radio, and film simultaneously, he and Lucy were often seen sharing long, private lunches that sent shockwaves of whispered speculation across studio corridors, fueling rumors that the two had developed a connection deeper than casual friendship. According to Mercury Theater actor Norman Lloyd, Wells was fascinated, not by Lucy's beauty, not by her fame-seeking potential, but by her comedic rhythm, her natural timing, her ability to transform physical gestures into something poetic, brilliant, and unforgettable. And Wells reportedly told his inner circle more than once that Lucille Ball possessed an untapped genius that Hollywood executives were too blind or too limited to recognize. Their alleged bond was built not on lust, but on intellect, on creativity, on mutual fascination, making their rumored affair one of the most intriguing secrets buried beneath Hollywood's polished surface. What made this rumored romance even more explosive was Desi Arnaz's reaction. Insiders at Desilu later revealed that whenever Wells called the office or arrived at the studio lot, Daisy would bristle with jealousy, demanding to know how long Orson had been there and exactly what he and Lucy had discussed. A startling contrast from his usual charm and confidence. One receptionist recalled, It was one of the few times we saw Desi truly jealous, suggesting that whatever existed between Lucy and Wells felt threatening enough to shake even a man as charismatic and self-assured as Desi Arnaz. A close friend of Lucy's, quoted but never named, summed it up perfectly: he was a genius, and she loved dangerous men. Orson was both. Yet the most fascinating part of this alleged affair isn't the romance, but the transformation that followed. After her association with Wells, Lucy began questioning directors more boldly, offering her own ideas, asserting her creative instincts, and behaving like a woman who suddenly realized she had the right to take control of her career, not simply perform in it. One script supervisor stated it was like he awakened something in her, suggesting the relationship, whatever it was, may have been one of the catalysts that pushed Lucy toward becoming the first woman in history to run a major Hollywood studio. In negotiations with CBS years later, executives noticed that Lucy would occasionally channel what they called her Orson energy, dropping her voice, speaking slowly, choosing words like a chess master, and refusing to retreat even an inch, a skill she likely sharpened by observing Wells, the man who famously battled Hollywood power structures with unapologetic confidence. From there, we shift to the third rumored lover on this list, the Mitchum, brooding, smoldering, effortlessly magnetic, represented everything Desi Arnaz was not. He was quiet where Desi was loud, mysterious where Desi was expressive, emotionally guarded where Desi was passionate, and unlike Desi, Mitchum had no interest in being the center of attention. Multiple Desilu insiders have insisted that Lucy and Mitchum gravitated toward one another at industry events during the years Lucy was increasingly heartbroken by Desi's relentless infidelity. A production assistant recalled, he was the kind of man who didn't need to prove anything, and Lucy found that magnetic. Hollywood historian Jeffrey Mark put it bluntly. She sometimes needed to feel like a desirable woman, not a comedic caricature. Mitchum certainly made women feel that way. The rumored affair reportedly burned quickly but intensely before both stars withdrew to protect their careers, neither ever addressing the whispers publicly, though Mitchum was known to smirk knowingly whenever Lucy's name came up in interviews. Some critics have even argued that Lucy's performance in I Love Lucy shifted after this alleged entanglement, noting a newfound confidence, sensuality, and emotional depth in episodes from mid-1952 onward. An intangible but noticeable transformation in the way she carried herself, suggested by one scholar as a maturity and inner fire that enriched her comedic presence. Years later, Mitchum's niece revealed a surprising detail in her memoir. Her uncle kept a signed photo of Lucy hidden in a desk drawer, not displayed publicly, but treasured privately, with a mysterious inscription that read, "To Bob, some storms are worth getting caught in, L." This line alone has fueled decades of speculation that whatever happened between them was meaningful, dangerous, and unforgettable. Yet the peril of such a connection was real. Mitchum's reputation for affairs and bad boy behavior made him a risk for any actress, let alone a rising comedian whose entire persona depended on public innocence. But perhaps that was exactly why the attraction existed. Mitchum represented the shadows outside Lucy's spotlight, the forbidden fire beyond the polished image America adored. In these whispered encounters, with the gentleman Henry Fonda, the genius Orson Welles, and the rebel Robert, just a few years earlier, Robert Mitchum had been arrested for marijuana possession, a scandal so explosive that it nearly destroyed his career. And for America's beloved Lucille Ball, whose smiling face represented purity, family, and laughter in every household, to be secretly linked to such a notorious Hollywood bad boy would have been a catastrophic blow to her carefully protected image and to the squeaky clean I Love Lucy brand that CBS guarded with an iron fist. Yet according to an aging Desilu security guard who broke his silence only in his final years, the truth behind the Mitchum rumor may have been far more real and far more scandalous than anyone imagined. The guard claimed he was once paid a surprisingly large bonus after unintentionally witnessing Mitchum slipping out of Lucy's dressing room late one night, an encounter he hadn't meant to see and didn't fully understand until Desi Arnaz himself pressed an envelope into his hand and said quietly, "You work very hard. You should take a vacation and forget anything you might have seen tonight." And the guard, with a family to feed, took the money and swallowed the secret for decades. But Mitchum was only one of the shocking connections hidden in Lucy's private life. Next on the list is the most unexpected name of all, the titan of the Western world, John Wayne, a man whose rugged masculinity and straight-shooting persona seemed miles away from Lucy's bubbly comedic energy. Yet, according to Hollywood gossip queen Hedda Hopper's unpublished memoirs, Wayne and Lucy shared a brief, quietly intense connection during a time when both were between marriages. Though they frequently crossed paths at charity galas and film premieres, their relationship had always appeared to the public as nothing more than warm friendship. However, a personal driver who worked for both stars at different points in his career later swore in his private journals that the pair shared a brief, no-strings weekend encounter understood by both to be temporary but deeply affectionate. He wrote, "It was never serious, just a moment between two people who understood each other, something neither of them ever mentioned again." And strangely enough, their continued friendship for decades afterward lends credibility to this claim, especially since Wayne later made a memorable 1966 guest appearance on The Lucy Show, where their on-screen chemistry radiated an undeniable ease, an unspoken familiarity that suggested layers of shared history beneath the surface. During a candid 1977 interview, Lucy herself described Wayne as one of the good ones, a true gentleman, accompanied by a faint yet telling smile that raised eyebrows even years later. And in that sense, John Wayne, solid, stable, quietly confident, offered the kind of emotional stillness Lucy rarely experienced at home. Wayne's son Patrick even affirmed in a 2005 interview that his father admired Lucy tremendously as a businesswoman, famously saying she had bigger balls than most studio executives. And according to a set photographer who documented Wayne's Lucy Show appearance, one quiet moment between takes captured an unmistakable intimacy. Wayne whispered something that triggered Lucy's real, unfiltered laugh. Not her on-camera performance giggle, but something softer, more personal, before she gently squeezed his hand, a gesture that hinted at familiarity rooted long before their televised reunion. But if Wayne's connection raised eyebrows, the fifth rumored affair sent Hollywood insiders into silent shock. The unnamed CBS studio executive, the Revenge Affair. According to several former Desilu staff members who finally shared their memories decades after Lucy's death, Lucy allegedly engaged in a brief affair with a very powerful CBS executive who, ironically, was one of Desi Arnaz's closest friends. These insiders described the liaison not as a love affair, but as a strategic act, something she used to reclaim a sense of power after enduring years of humiliation caused by Desi's blatant, well-known infidelities. A secretary from that era admitted it wasn't about romance, it was about leverage. She needed something to level the playing field. Rumor has it that after one vicious argument, Desi attempted to accuse Lucy of straying, and she coolly responded by simply saying the executive's name, watching Desi turn pale and fall silent, instantly realizing he had no moral ground to stand on because he was 10 women deep himself, as one accountant described it. What made this alleged relationship even more complicated was that the executive remained a powerful ally to both Lucy and Desi for years afterward, proof of the tangled, messy, deeply intertwined personal and professional loyalties that defined old Hollywood's golden age. But perhaps the most telling impact of this rumored affair was the way it shifted the power dynamics between Lucy and Desi. According to a writer who worked on I Love Lucy, around 1955, there was a sudden and dramatic change in how Desi behaved in production meetings. Previously dismissive or controlling at times, he began showing Lucy far more respect, deferring to her creative instincts and acknowledging her authority. Something shifted that year, the writer recalled. It was like Lucy finally had the upper hand. Meanwhile, the unnamed executive, widely believed to have held enormous sway over, whether born of desire, strategy, heartbreak, or empowerment, these secret connections reveal a side of Lucille Ball the world was never meant to see. A woman navigating fame, betrayal, ambition, and emotional hunger in a world ruled by powerful men. A woman who built an empire while quietly fighting private battles that shaped her strength, her decisions, and her legacy forever. Budget increases, creative control, and schedule preferences. Everyone at Desilu wondered how Lucille Ball had suddenly acquired a level of leverage powerful enough to bend CBS executives to her will, especially since the ratings, while solid, hadn't shown any dramatic spike. Yet the truth whispered in private circles was far more explosive than anything the public ever suspected. According to Lucy's longtime personal assistant, who recorded her memories in a private, unpublished memoir, the reason for Lucy's sudden shift in influence came from a calculated and deeply personal move, an affair not rooted in desire, but forged in the fires of betrayal and humiliation. The affair wasn't about passion. It was about power, she wrote, remembering the way Lucy's eyes hardened with resolve after years of suffering through Desi Arnaz's public indiscretions. Lucy, exhausted by humiliation, had finally reached her breaking point and confided to her assistant, "Sometimes you have to speak to people in the only language they understand." It was the moment she transformed from a woman begging for respect into a woman who seized it, marking what Hollywood historian Martin Green describes as the turning point that led Lucy toward eventually claiming full control of Desilu after her divorce, an evolution from wounded spouse to industry titan. But Lucy's private life held even more hidden connections, including the most surprising rumor of them all. Dean Martin, the effortless charmer with a velvet voice and a whiskey smile. Their connection, whispered about by neighbors and friends, wasn't the wild, scandalous affair Hollywood tabloids would crave. Instead, according to a Beverly Hills neighbor, it was two survivors finding each other in the wreckage, two icons who had tasted both the intoxicating thrill of fame and the crushing weight of its consequences. Sources close to Lucy in her later years claimed that Lucy's longtime hairdresser recalled that she lit up differently around Dean, not with the excitement of new love, but with the peaceful comfort of being understood by someone who had also endured fame's sharpest edges. Dean's daughter, Deanna Martin, added more fuel to the speculation in her memoir, describing a private phone her father kept, one that rang only for a select few. Lucy was one of the rare names on that list. When she called, Dean often stepped away to speak in private, something he rarely did with anyone, even his children. Their rumored connection was especially poignant because both were facing the twilight of their careers. Dean was navigating life after his professional split from Jerry Lewis, trying to redefine himself, while Lucy was reinventing her place in Hollywood after the end of I Love Lucy. A producer who worked closely with both stars said, "They'd been through the highest highs and lowest lows of fame. They didn't have to explain their pasts, they just understood each other." Meanwhile, Lucy's second husband, Gary Morton, reportedly accepted and understood her closeness with Dean. Their marriage, described by insiders as partly one of convenience, was built on practicality. Morton managed Lucy's business affairs, and supported her emotionally, but he didn't try to control her personal connections. According to one household staff member, Morton once said, "Lucy deserves all the happiness she can find. God knows she's earned it," suggesting an unspoken but peaceful tolerance of Lucy's deep bond with Martin. In the final decade of her life, Lucy carried these secrets close to her heart, revealing almost nothing publicly. When she passed away on April 26, 1989, she took most of her truths with her. In her last interview, when asked about the long-standing rumors of her romantic life, she offered only a small, mysterious smile and said, "The world got my talent. Only a select few got my heart. And perhaps that is the most important truth of all." Whether these 6 affairs were passionate romances, brief encounters, emotional lifelines, or strategic acts of empowerment, they reveal a woman who, behind the laughs, behind the red hair, behind the sitcom perfection, was navigating heartbreak, betrayal, power, reinvention, and longing. Those closest to her confirm that Lucy sought in these connections what Daisy Arnaz could never fully provide: respect, emotional safety, steadiness, intellectual partnership, and fidelity. They remind us that Lucille Ball, the woman America adored, was not just a queen of comedy, but a complex, passionate, determined human being who fought fiercely to build her own happiness in a world that rarely offered women that freedom. If you enjoyed this rare glimpse into the secret heart of Hollywood's brightest redhead, remember to subscribe, because the most fascinating stories are the ones that unfold when the cameras stop rolling and the truth steps into the spotlight.